Ngā mihi mahana kia koutou katoa. Kua haere mai nei ki tēnei kōrero whai tikanga. Welcome to you all for joining us tonight for this important conversation with our tamariki and their mama and their mums. Paipa, will you open our hui with karakia, please? Me I noi tātou.
Where is it?
Right here.
That one. Nā mihi o te rā, ki te whānau e hui hui nei, kia tau te rangi Māori e, kia whakatapua tātou, me nā mea e whakapono ana tātou hau mai e hui e tā ki e.
Thank you, Paipa. Tēnā pai.
Welcome.
Tonight you have the opportunity to join 3 whānau as they share their experiences of navigating the education system as part of our Ngā Aukaha All in for Tamariki campaign, Week of Action activities. Before I share a little bit about the campaign, I will introduce our distinguished guests. Sharing with us tonight are Paipa, a student here in Tauranga, and her mum Erica, who is a fierce advocate for equity in education. We also have Orlena, a teacher aide with kura kaupapa and mainstream education experience, and her mum Leilani, who is also in education. Both are based in Rotorua. Bringing the male teenage voice is Jet, who has just completed year 12 in a faith-based school here in Tauranga, and me, his mum, who is a resource teacher for learning and behaviour, president of our NZI Aotearoa Tauranga branch and convener of our Bay of Plenty Ngā Aukaha reference group. Welcome to you all tonight. Very simply, Ngā Aukaha All in for Tamariki is a campaign to address underfunding, under-resourcing, and barriers to inclusive education so that all tamariki can access the support they need to thrive. Educators, parents, and whānau across Aotearoa are passionate about making sure our education system fulfills the potential of every tamaiti. When we support children from an early age and throughout their education, it enables them to live healthy and fulfilling lives. An inclusive education system means all tamariki will thrive. Yes. Okay, so tonight, as you're joining us, could you please let us know your name, where you're from, and any questions you might have for any members of the panel? Could you please put that in the chat? Thank you. Thank you. So tonight I am going to ask questions of all of our panel members, and let's get stuck into it. So, Paipa. Oh, Liam's joining us, so now I've got to add this bit. Also joining us tonight is Liam Rutherford, the president of NZI Aotearoa. No mai, haere mai, Liam. Thanks for joining us. I'll give you a chance to talk at the end.
Kia ora koutou, great to see everyone.
Thank you. Okay, Paipa, you ready, mate? Cool. Tell us a bit about you, Paipa.
Hi, I'm Piper. I'm very excited to be speaking with you tonight about life as a 10-year-old.
And do you have a dog?
Yes, I have a pet dog. Her name is Linny.
Yeah, and what kind of things do you like to do?
I like to do everything.
Like, do you like singing?
Yes.
And do you do Star Jam?
Yeah, but it's finished.
Yeah, and what part of Star Jam are you in? Are you a singer?
Yeah, the Supreme Singers.
The Supreme Singers, that's right. Cool.
Fantastic. Thank you, Piper and Erica. Orlena, tell us a bit about yourself.
Tēnā koutou e te hunga mā takitaki, ko Orlena mahana smai tuku ingoa. No te aroa, no Ngāti Whare, no te aitanga hawiti, rātou ko Ngāti Aukaha All. I am 22 years old. I live in Aotearoa. I also have cerebral palsy spastic diplegia, which means for me that the part of my brain that controls movement doesn't work properly. So I use a wheelchair full time. Usually I am working towards my Bachelor of Arts in Te Reo Māori and Anthropology, but I decided to take a break this year and work alongside my mum as a teacher aide or learning support worker. And it's very rewarding for me. So thank you for having me be part of this.
Thank you. Thanks. Jet, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Jet Tairi Tangilala. I'm a kind, loving, and loyal person, and I'm madly in love with music.
And what else do you like, Jet?
Shopping, traveling a lot, and going out for a run every day, and sports.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Jet. Okay, Piper,
Yeah.
what do you love doing?
I am really good at singing and reciting. I love to sing songs like Pepeha by 660 and recite episodes of Peppa Pig and Daniel Tiger because they are social stories and help me understand the world around me.
Yep. She does. Do you like doing anything else?
Yes,
What else do you like to do?
I like dancing.
Oh. Oh, she's got great dance moves. Those are great. And do you like going to school?
Yes,
What do you like about that?
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, she loves everything.
Yes.
Thanks, Piper. And Orlena, what do you love doing?
I love spending time with my whānau, especially when we do kapahaka together. It's a really enjoyable experience. I also love actually writing. I find it quite therapeutic, so that's why I gravitated towards a lot of the writing subjects at school. Even things like singing. Yeah, I really enjoy that too. Yeah.
Got a couple of singers in the house.
Yeah.
Jet, what do you love doing?
Making music, dressing up nice when I go out.
My mum.
My mom.
Spending my mother's money.
Technically my money though. Yeah.
All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Piper, what challenges did you face at school, or do you face at school?
It is hard for me to
Sorry.
It is hard for me to understand verbal cues, so listening to a teacher and trying to remember everything she said is hard. Communicating how I am feeling or what I am thinking is hard too, unless I have something I can recite.
And so who helps you at school? Do you have someone that helps you at school?
I don't know.
Is her name Katrina? Do you know your teacher aide's name?
Yeah,
What's her name?
I don't know.
Katrina. So she has a teacher aide that helps her at school.
Her name is
Katrina.
Katrina. Her name is Katrina.
It is Katrina. And what does Katrina help you with at school?
She helps me with my writing.
Yes. And does she help you when you want to talk to kids that you want to play with?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have any friends at school?
Yes.
And do you find it hard to talk to them or easy when you have Katrina?
I like Malema.
Yeah, she is great. And what else is hard for you? Does it hard for you to write?
No.
You can write?
No. Katrina had some help for me.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I think a lot of those basic, the other kids find it really easy. She finds it a bit difficult, really, and just, yes, communicating verbal cues and listening and remembering what was said, except for she usually just remembers the last part.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Orlena, what challenges did you face at school?
For me, the challenges were more to do with, one was access. So sometimes in terms of access, I couldn't actually access certain places, like going onto the stage when I was getting awards at school, which was like a big thing for me because it felt like I wasn't as equal as everybody else, even though I was getting the same as awards as them. Yeah, the recognition just didn't feel the same. So in that way, it was a challenge for me. Also, I think even at university, I've found challenges that it's even harder to get into buildings, and even not being able to access buildings that I should be able to access. Yeah, so having to try and navigate those issues as well. Another one was being underestimated at school, because I find that sometimes with teachers, I had one example and she kind of underestimated me because I went to a particular primary school that was a local one, but was kind of not a prominent one, I suppose. So they just assumed that from there I should be like a year behind or something like that. And it just made me feel really uncomfortable. And I suppose the way I overcome that was showing them my ability and earning those awards to prove to them that I was actually capable, and being from a little local school wasn't actually a barrier. Yeah. So yeah, but those were my main challenges when it came to my schooling. Yeah.
So brave, Orlena. Thank you for sharing. Jet, what challenges have you faced at school?
Teachers that didn't understand, and some mean students, and bad schools sometimes. I had to sit on the mat with a photo on showing me how to sit properly because of my ADD. And I'd just talk and talk, and I wouldn't be sitting on the mat properly like everyone else. And I felt alone because I was the only one who had to have a photo on the mat. And next to my photo was shh, telling me to be quiet. So I felt, excluded from everyone because no one got a shush or photos. In PE, I would get underestimated a lot. And my teacher now, like this happens now in my PE classes, I get underestimated for how good I am at sports. And that's something me and my teacher have been trying to fix. So yeah.
What about reading?
I've never been really good at reading. Even with some teachers saying that I had to sit in class and write out that word 100 times, it never got to me. And it was literally a waste of time. And then I'd see kids outside playing and looking at me saying, haha, you have to stay in class and write lines. because it looked like I was the bad kid who had to write out lines saying like, I need to be better at this.
Piper, what was your favorite thing to do after school that you would look forward to?
I don't know.
Do you go somewhere with Katrina after school?
I go to Katrina's house.
And what do you guys do there?
I play in Katrina and Brett's bedroom.
Yeah. And do you have 100?
Funds.
Yeah. And what do you do on Thursdays?
Get a frozen Coke.
Oh, she's calling you, oddly enough. And what do you do what other things do you do after school?
On Fridays, my mom or dad will come pick me up
We will. And where will we go?
somewhere.
Yeah. Anywhere. So she just likes to do after school. She needs to transition before she goes home. So she has to go somewhere else and then we can go home. So we can go anywhere. Sometimes we'll go to the park. Sometimes we'll go to the supermarket.
Yeah, I went to the park today.
She did. What did you do?
I played on the zip line and I felt brave.
She finally conquered the zip line all by herself.
And I jumped.
Oh. You did. You did jump. Yeah, she did a great job and she was very brave. So that was a big win for us this week, eh?
Yeah, and after the conference called the speech, I will have a nap in Mom's bedroom and I'll lay in my tummy in Dad's spot.
Yeah, because she doesn't feel very good.
No.
Yeah, you have a tummy ache.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm allergic to Anchor Blue milk.
That's why she thinks her tummy hurts. Yeah.
My mom thinks
Yeah.
Lactose
that
intolerant.
I'm allergic to blue milk.
Yeah.
I mean to Anchor Blue milk.
Hopefully they're not a sponsor.
No, they're not sponsoring us.
Basically, because she has something that hurts, she wants me to tell her why and what the reason is. And so we just told her once because she had a gastro bug one time and she couldn't have dairy. So we said she can't drink milk. And now anytime she has anything wrong with her, she thinks it's because of the dairy.
Anchor Blue milk.
Anchor Blue milk. Yeah. Good job.
Well, Lena, what did you look forward to doing after school?
This is taking me back a bit. When I was younger and in primary school in particular, I used to get dropped off a lot at my grandmother's on the taxi van, and she would always have mints ready for me for kai, because when I was little I didn't really eat a lot of my lunch that Mum would pack for me, so she would ensure that I had some kai after school by making me mints, which was my favorite kai, still is. But yeah, it's just one of my favorite memories from back in my school days and what I would look forward to. Yeah.
You and Jet have mints in common.
Awesome.
What did you look forward to doing
Yeah.
after school?
Youth,
You?
Youth?
Oxygen Youth.
Tell us more about Oxygen Youth.
I'm a part of the youth band, and most of my best friends are at youth. I don't really have a lot of best friends over at school because they're off doing their own thing. At youth, it's like another family for me. I haven't been able to go because of COVID, so I miss them a lot. And
And who's this?
this.
Your hippo.
And who's this? Who's this?
Hippity,
And who is
My mom.
Tippity for you?
my soulmate. I've had him since I was born. He's 18 years old. I'm 17. Yeah.
And what does he provide for you?
Someone to talk to that doesn't talk back.
but also someone that's kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, kids. Thanks, kids, for sharing with us tonight. We really, really, really appreciate hearing your honesty, your experience, and for being authentic with us tonight. So thank you. Mamas, give them a kiss. So thank you. All right, our turn. Our turn.
You're welcome, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Piper.
You're welcome.
Erica, your turn. What challenges have you seen your child overcome?
In the very beginning, we went to our local school for Piper to enroll her in school. And I kind of, we were quite lucky because she was diagnosed early. So I thought we bought a house in an area that I thought would be good for her to go to school. It was a high decile school. I just assumed that meant it was a good school. And when we went there to do our walk around, they told me that she was only going to be covered for 2 hours a day, and that most people had to pick their kids up before lunchtime. But it was okay if I couldn't, because she would be fine, but she wouldn't have any support. So I felt like she would be quite unsafe at the time that she started. She was still in nappies. She was really aggressive. She was nonverbal. She couldn't speak, and she would take all of her clothes off when she got really overwhelmed. And so the thought that she couldn't go to school was crazy. So I wound up contacting the Ministry of Education at the time, who was working with us as we were in a Montessori, and she was there all day. And so she had kind of said, hey, look, there's a school that is really good. It hasn't zoned yet. They have a high number of, it's a mainstream school. They have a high number of kids with needs, mainly because they also have a lot of children who have behavioral issues. So even though they might not have disabilities and such, they were really good at handling various behaviors. So we went there, and it wasn't until later I realized that we were actually excluded from our local school, but in a way that I felt really guilty. Like when I sat with them and they said, well, we'll only fund 2 hours, but we could ask for more, but we'll have to ask the board, but it puts us in, quite a financial situation.
When will I go toilet?
You can go to the toilet now.
Okay.
Bye. I was saying, I think to you guys the other day, you feel really guilty as a parent because you take on a lot of that guilt, like it's your fault. And especially when they're that young, and then you go to a place where you're hoping she will be like everyone else or treated that way, only to find out that actually she won't be treated like everyone else, and she won't be able to get the help. And you're putting, people in a difficult position, because not only is she difficult at that time, she was going to cost money that they didn't have, and she was going to take resources that they didn't have. And so, we were really lucky to find a school that was mainstream right before they zoned. It's about 20 minutes from our house, so we drive there every morning. And we've been really lucky, but I never realized really how lucky we were until we started on this huge advocacy journey that came from looking at the finances of that school about a year or two after Piper had started already going there, when they asked me to come in and help with consulting. I couldn't believe that the funding, and then I understood, but then I also understood even more so what creative exclusion was. And it actually made me really angry, because I remember exactly how I felt. I even said to my husband, it was so nice that they were really honest with me and told me how hard this would be for them. And so I kind of felt bad for them at the time. I didn't feel bad for my kid or even me. And I think that was a challenging time. And then just watching her, take off her clothes in school, and we'd have to run to the school. Even though they were amazing, we get a call and say, oh, Piper's naked in the corner. So we'd have to run there, and they still remember us like throwing her over our shoulder. And the deputy principal was like throwing a blanket as we would be rushing her out of the school, because, she had a meltdown, and, trying to figure out what caused them, and trying to get people to see her like we see her, you know, or like you would have seen her, like she's a gorgeous child, but it was almost like when only people get to see those like blips of, you know, the hard stuff. That's kind of what they just thought of her. You know, I remember going to a store and someone, you know, said to us when she was having a meltdown, which mainly was because the first time we went to the restaurant, the lady greeted us with water. And the second time we came, she didn't have any water with her. And Piper just started panicking and went into this huge meltdown. And this woman came up to me and, well, she was talking to someone else and just said, oh, you know, this is why spanking shouldn't be illegal in this country. And, you know, you need to watch how you parent your kid. And because I was trying to calm her down, so I wasn't telling her to stop. I was just like, it's okay, we'll get you a water. And I was trying to be quite calm and patient with her. And people that didn't understand was hard. And I feel like with autism, because it's a very invisible disability. And if you look at Piper in a dress with blonde hair, or even if she's doing a karakia, they're like, oh, she's fine. Like people have even said, she's not autistic. You know, she's just like me. I was like that. And I just thought, well, that's because you don't get to see the whole thing, you know? So yeah, so I think that's challenging. You go from that point of apologizing for your kid, and then you get to that point where you're like, oh, nah, now I'm fighting for my kid actually, you know? So.
Thanks. Thank you, Erica. Leilani, what challenges?
Good, everybody. Yes, all the challenges, lots of challenges during Orlena's life, but especially during her younger schooling years, so primary, intermediate, high school. So a lot of the challenges were around her physical disability. So for us, cognitively, academically, she was pretty fine. So we, you know, are really blessed for that. But in terms of the physical disabilities, it's so visible. So right from the start, just teaching her to, or getting support to help her to transfer from the bed to the wheelchair, toilet, things like that, and knowing as she was getting older that she'd have to eventually come from ECE and into school, and that support would need to be continued, either by ourselves or hopefully with a teacher aide. Luckily for us, ECE, it started straight from there. We were able to get in early and get support for her early, so that was a real blessing. We wouldn't have been able to really cope without our LSWs, our teacher aides, through her schooling. She brought some really close bonds with them as well. So in terms of physically helping her at school, they were amazing. They'd do everything that I would do at home for her. And that was something that we'll never forget, just knowing that she'd be safe and well at school. Emotionally, some of the challenges that she's had to face, going through the stage of why me. So the white me, why do I have cerebral palsy? So going through that sort of emotional stuff, and getting to the teenage years and it just being even more amplified in high school. You're starting to get clicky, little cliques happening within school. Wasn't so prevalent during primary.
No.
Started sort of happening during intermediate, but yeah, that was one of the major challenges. And so just coaching you, helping you through that, the emotional challenges, and of course social. So primary school, it was amazing. She had an amazing primary school. We loved the experience there. Yeah. She got so much support. It's sort of, our goal for Orlena was to actually get her as independent as possible, getting up to high school, because we know those high school years are brutal, socially, emotionally, physically, they're changing. All of that comes into play. So we were like, we don't want her to be seen as different. Obviously, she is being in a wheelchair. We didn't want to amplify that even more with, having her rely on people, but at the same time knowing that she probably would have to at certain times during high school. So yeah, so socially, emotionally, physically, those were our main challenges that we faced with Orlena during her schooling years. And it sort of continues now through to university, which is quite unbelievable. I can't believe how hard it's been, even at Waikato University to access support for people in wheelchairs. You know, there's not many accommodation providers, even on the campus. Yeah, there's really just one sort of residential hall, which is amazing. Apart from that, and yeah, you've got to sort of be quick. There could be others coming in with similar challenges. So yeah, that still continues, and no doubt it will still continue as she grows. And we look at accommodation, her moving out of home, and all of that sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, the challenges continue, and we try to meet them as best we can.
Thanks, Leilani. Thanks for sharing. My Jet was born with anaphylaxis allergies, and it was easier to say what he could eat and be around than what he couldn't eat and be. I mean, he really needed to be a bubble boy. So it took a lot of work to keep him safe. When he was turning 5, and the thought of him going to school, I felt so anxious because, I mean, the smallest thing could set him off into an allergic reaction and would need to go to hospital. And it took me 4 goes to buy his lunchbox. I went in the first 2 times and just stood there and bawled my eyes out. And then I took him on the 3rd time, and I still cried, and we walked out together. And then the 4th time he said to me, "Mum, I need a lunchbox. I'm starting school tomorrow." It was just the thought of letting him go out into this big wide world where I couldn't control what he was eating or being subjected to it was terrible. As a result of his allergies, he had to sit on a chair. He was allergic to carpet. He couldn't go on grass. He still can't go on grass. Allergic to trees, chemical sprays. So whenever the teacher cleaned the classroom, Jet had to go outside, or I had to supply, organic white vinegar for them to clean their classrooms. He often sat by himself because he was seen as different. He couldn't eat sandwiches. He was allergic to bread. So, Lena, I made him mince and veggies. He had mince or chicken and veggies every day for lunch. But the kids would think he was a weirdo because he didn't have sandwiches. And I remember him coming home and crying, "Mama, I want a sandwich." It was just terrible because I couldn't do anything about that. So as a result, he spent a lot of his early years in hospital. And then when he would try and interact with schooling, reading, writing, he would know the word at the beginning of the book, kind of know it in the middle, and then definitely not know it at the end. And as someone who thrived in the education system here in New Zealand, I just didn't understand that. And it was so frustrating. And I would take my frustrations out on Jet because I wanted him to be, as good at this thing as I was. And I very quickly learned, after saying to Jet one day, your little brother can do this better than you, that it was time to go and find out what was going on. So as a result of that, he was diagnosed with ADD and dyslexia. He's 17 and he has a reading age of 7 years old. And the problem was that because he looks fine.
Very handsome.
Thanks. Because he looks fine, you can't tell. And unfortunately, he spent a lot of time in schools, and the teachers would think he was being lazy. Hence the reason he got given his lines to write out. And I went, okay, I need to do something about this. So I went off and closed my personal training business and studied to be a teacher, because I thought if I'm going to find out about this stuff, then I may as well make it a career. And I also didn't want any other child to have the experience that Jet had had. I didn't want any other family to have to get to the end of the year and count the sleeps until school was over. You know, that's what we did. Okay, Jet, 13 to go, 12 to go, 11 to go. It was terrible. But I have seen my Jet be so brave and have so much courage to continue to be at school and find his niche and allow me to help him. I'm his reader writer. Let me in on the subjects that he's doing, so I learn it and then I figure out how to teach him in the way that he learns. And you know, I think the biggest the evidence of the challenges that he's overcome is he got a diligence award and an award, a financial award this year for Gateway, which is work experience course. So yeah, I'm very proud of my Jet. He's hung in there, and yeah, good boy. Erica, what was your experience of navigating the education system with a child who needed additional support?
It was interesting because I was saying the other day, I'm on a steering group with the DHB, and we're looking at how different families kind of come into the system. And that was something that was really highlighted, is that really how you get into the system is so important, because it really lays out the foundation of how you're going to kind of maneuver it. We got really lucky, and I still don't even know how we got so lucky. But if I look at the time, like, we had a really traumatic delivery with Piper. It was horrific. They thought she was 7 pounds. Anyway, she was 3 pounds 10. We thought she was full term, but she wasn't actually growing, but because she was really long. So when we went into this delivery where someone called an emergency cesarean after she'd already passed my cervix, and we still don't know why they called it, but anyway, they had to push her back up, and they busted all the blood vessels in both of her eyes. She had significant bruising all over her face. And when they pulled her out, they immediately were shocked at how small she was, because they thought she was going to be over 7 pounds. So she had all this bruising. They had busted the blood vessels in her eyes. Now, no one ever said to me at that moment that Piper probably should be ACC funded. And a lot of her injuries are likely ACC. So because we didn't know, because she hit all her milestones and things like that, and about, and then suddenly she started to regress, and she stopped walking, and then it was like a light switch had just turned off. It was like we had a child and someone swapped her in the middle of the night. I'll never forget how that felt, to have one child and then suddenly wake up with another kid. Even though she was the same one, and trying to make sense of it. And as we went through the system and found out about OARS funding and education, it wasn't until later that I realized the inequity in funding a child who has autism who is ACC funded, and a child who has autism that is OARS funded. And the inequity there, it's still, and at the time I even realized it, I thought, how come no one sat down with me and said, hey, look here, if there are any issues in the future with her, this is what you need to do. And so you're really left navigating yourself, and you're using Google, and you're trying to find people who understand, and and everyone has advice for you about like everything. And so that I think that's the really hard in navigating it, is there isn't one single pathway. So for us, because it was so early, because we had such a drastic change in her abilities almost like overnight, I immediately was trying to find someone to look at her and diagnose her. We wound up going private, and then we got pushed to this local charity at the time called Te Whānau Katahi, and they have now just been merged in with the DHB. Hence this whole discussion around how do these children get in the system, and where are they falling through the cracks, and why do they fall in the cracks? And so this is quite a good conversation. I told them about this campaign with NZEI as well. because a lot of the things they're trying to solve, I feel, are really relevant, and that the Ministry of Education should be present in these meetings, because it is around navigating the system. The DHB and the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, everyone, you know, along with families, should be figuring out an easier pathway so there's one entry point. I mean, kids shouldn't have to wait 6 months. We waited 6 to 8 months for behavioral help. And by the time they finally came, I didn't need help in that area anymore, because we had already like fought our way through it, you know. But I still had to go through that course, because if I didn't, it was looked as though I wasn't taking everything that was given to me, and then that would affect Piper in the long run. So, you know, you just, yeah, this is, it's very hard to navigate. You know, and the VIPS education was amazing for me. I remember going into that group on Facebook and reading and feeling like there are all these people just like me. And, you know, and as sad as it was also like a community, and that has helped me as well. So thank you, Sue. I see that you're here.
Thanks. Leilani, how have you coped?
We've coped a lot through the years with support from family. So mainly being family, support at home, but particularly schools. So we've been able to cope knowing that Olena was taken care of at school, physically, everything, just whare tapawha, through the LSWs and her kaiako, her teachers. And Whai July was one of her teachers, fortunately, at her primary school. So she was one of the many people that helped to support us, support me, along with, yeah, the LSWs. All her teacher aides through the years are just like Whānau. And yeah, I mean, Olena's always called them her other mums. Yeah, they've all been female. Yeah, so no, we just coped. We've just had to, really. Just making sure that Olena got everything she could out of, you know, her education through the journey. Yeah, just navigating the education system in terms of, you know, any additional supports. We've had a big team behind us, so physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. There's just been a whole team who we're so grateful for at the end of the day. So we're very lucky. We feel very lucky. We were very lucky to have Olena diagnosed very early with cerebral palsy. So 11 months old, she started showing signs of her condition, and from there and through daycare, ECE, she was able to get support straight away. So I think the earlier that it becomes, you know, it can be available to whānau, sees that, yeah, because once you get into the primary school system, and I've seen this as an educator in Rotorua, to get support for some of the tamariki in my class who have very obvious special needs, it's been a struggle. There's so much paperwork and a lot that you have to go through, a lot of hui, you know, being a teacher is busy enough, and then you've got all this other stuff to come up with just to, you know, just to get that support for our tamariki who need it. The need is real, and it's just become more prevalent. I mean, I was in primary school years ago, and, you know, the social change that's been happening and the needs are becoming more prevalent, and we just need so much more support within our kura, almost 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3. You know, it's becoming that diet like you. I started I came out of a couple of different jobs, working in conservation, working with my iwi, and I decided to become a teacher. So this is sort of the third wave, and I'm really enjoying it. I started my training at 38 as well, and I've just thoroughly enjoyed it. But gee, what an eye-opener. What a massive eye-opener. So yeah, I do hope that this campaign takes off and we just get as much as we can for our tamariki who really need the support.
Thanks, Leilani. Thank you. yeah, I've had a very different experience with Jet and his support that he needed. Like I said, I wound my business up because he didn't get anything, no support at all. And not only no support, but was also labeled with things that should never be said to children. I volunteered as a teacher aide, parent aide in the classroom. I did that for 5 years, but I was told I wasn't allowed to work with Jet. I had to work with someone else because apparently he wouldn't listen to me, which was not true at all. The kaiako that I worked with kind of had a preconceived idea of what our relationship was. They soon found out that I worked really well with boys that had behavioural stuff. So that's when they said to me, Nick, you need to go and do your degree, which I did, because I saw that I wanted to make the difference that I wanted to make, but didn't have the qualifications behind me that were necessary to make that difference. It's been a heartbreaking experience, and now as RTLB here in Tauranga, I see my families going through it as well. You know, it's really hard to be part of the marginalised groups. So Māori with learning difficulties, because I was a sole parent, we were seen as poor, even though that wasn't the case. You know, we fit into pretty much every marginalised category that there was. And so, yeah, being stereotyped in really negative ways. So I even though my work is challenging, it is really, really, really challenging, I am the advocate for the parent and the child because I know what it's been like for us. That is why I give my time. You know, I don't get paid to do this. I don't get paid to do any of my NZEI work, but it's through our voice and our experiences and sharing our messages that we will get more and more and more support for this campaign. And you know, you've heard two great stories tonight about how Olena and Piper were supported from very early on, but you've also heard an experience where that support was not there. So yeah, join up, Ngā Aukaha campaign. Adriana, I have read all of your statements. I hear your mamai, I hear your frustration, and yours are the stories that we need to make political change. So yes, even though it's hard to read, it's hard, those are the stories that we need to hear, you know. So Liam, want to talk tonight, want to close us off, and then I'll close with karakia.
Kia ora tātou. Thanks for the opportunity to share, and I'm really relieved that I'm talking at the end rather than at the beginning, because those stories were just very, very real. Erica, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you and Piper about 2.5 years ago, standing on a stage trailer in front of about 800 NZEI and PPTA members before we went on a massive march through Tauranga. Yep. And if I remember rightly, Piper was trying to steal the microphone to sing for everybody.
Yes, she was. That's right. Yep. Yeah. I remember you. Good to see you.
Jet and Alina, you guys are so articulate. Thank you so much for being able to describe your experience so well. That was so clear. Given what everyone else has shared, for me, this has really come home to quite a personal level in the last kind of 12 months, because my 4-year-old boys started at kindergarten and hasn't transitioned well. And it was such a surreal feeling to be on the other side of that experience, because I'm a teacher and I'm a president of a union. And so obviously kids should be at school, that's where they belong. But then to be living the kind of day-to-day experiences of my little boy not wanting to go to kindergarten, and when you drop him off, you end up hanging out for longer than would be ideal, and just seeing a difference in what he's like at home as opposed to what he's like at kindergarten. That's been a challenge that we're still working through. There's no end in sight. And so it's only now that we are starting to kick into the support conversations, and the head teachers recommended engaging a speech language therapist. And so my kind of default reaction was, cool, support's coming. And then you find out that it's a group referral and that they don't quite have enough kids yet to do the group referral, and that we're looking at next year. We're incredibly fortunate that we can just go private, but that kind of deep realization that we carry a huge amount of privilege that other kids in the kindergarten clearly don't, and that the hundreds of kids that have gone through my classrooms clearly haven't. And listening to you all tonight and reflecting on my own experiences makes me think that the community approach that we really want to have underpinning Ngā Aukaha is 100% the right one, because learning support for the longest time has been under-delivering that child-centred approach that we say we all stand by. Government, politicians, union, classrooms, parents, we're all advocating for the same thing. But really realising that actually, while the solutions are clear, the emphasis of solutions look different depending on how you come to that conversation. Because we spend an awful lot of time as a union talking about the massive under-resourcing and understaffing of the education sector as being the key reason. But you only have to listen to the stories that you shared today to see actually the profession itself has got a lot more to go on the journey. And that understaffing and under-resourcing is definitely linked to the journey that we have to go on as professionals to really live out that child-centred approach, and genuinely valuing kids that come into our classrooms for who they are and the strengths that they bring, and understanding that by building off those, we are going to be in a much better position than anything else. I was going to talk about some of the specifics of the Ngā Aukaha campaign, but I'll leave it there. But I just want to finish off with two things. One is, Mackenzie, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, really driving the day-to-day of this on the ground through NZI and out into the community. We feel really fortunate to have you. And Nicola, I just want to kind of talk about one of the last comments you said around one of the best things we can do in this campaign is to share those stories and create space for people to have voices. Because the conversations that we have heard today, those are the ones that are going to shift people in power to the type of system that we know our kids deserve.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Liam. Thank you for sharing and taking your time to be here with us in the Bay and Waiariki tonight. We appreciate your presence. I'm going to wrap it up with our karakia to whakatau, to settle everything. Thank you for your attendance on our Zui tonight. Jet was very, very, very nervous. So was I. I have presented quite a few times with this, but this is a subject very, very, very close to my heart. So it was something I didn't want to muck up. So yeah, thank you for your grace tonight as we begin to navigate this journey. Yeah, please join our campaign and share your stories, because I am sure that you have them as well. Me noi tātou. Kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki a ihu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, āmene.
Āmene.
Ka kite.
Ka kite.